Hello everyone and welcome to the Race Monkey. I'm Ishan and what I have over here is one of the most controversial car of my career. This is the MG Hector. But what's special about this MG Hector is that this is the diesel avatar. Now this one gets the 2-liter diesel engine that is there in the Tata Harrier as well and the Jeep Compass too. But because we have so many bans in our country regarding the diesel engines and emissions and the 10-year rule, especially in Delhi NCR where I'm from, it becomes quite a cumbersome choice for someone to pick a diesel car over a petrol or a hybrid that's currently available. So I'm out on a road trip back to Shimla from Delhi just to prove the point that the diesel cars still have a huge hope amongst the creed of people who travel a lot. For example, I've had this car for the last 3 days and I've already done 500 kilometers on it, and that is within the city. Now I'm out on the highway heading off to the mountains to explore more, and this is not particularly the car that I have always admired as a car enthusiast, so there is a lot to be talked about. So without further ado, let's get behind the wheel and take you on this road trip, which is still quite long from here because I am at the Great Khali Dhaba, which is quite a popular tourist dhaba on the National Highway 1 that connects Delhi to Amritsar and Chandigarh. And from there, we'll take a detour towards Shimla and onwards to Narkanda to see if the MG Hector Diesel really is something that would allure me as a driving and a traveling enthusiast. And as an addition, I'm carrying a mattress, some bed sheets, my pillow and my blanket, because I'll be brave enough to camp in this car overnight in -2 degrees Celsius. Alright then, let's get behind the wheel and talk to you more about what this car is all about. So, after driving through the night, I finally reached Shimla, and because I was very tired and I was carrying my own bedding, it was pretty evident that I was about to make a bed inside the Hector itself. And so I did. The space inside the MG Hector when you fold down the second row is pretty substantial, and because of the flat floor, it's very easy to make a bed for a person of my size, and I'm 5 feet 8 inches tall. There's the full moon. Now, when I woke up in the morning, it was about 1 or 2 degrees Celsius, pretty cold indeed. But the moment I opened up the boot to look at the view outside, it was pretty spectacular. And I was also welcomed by this Himalayan crow who was screaming on top of his voice, acting like an alarm to wake up and get going. So, the Hector comes with the same recipe as before in this diesel avatar. It still gets the same 2-liter diesel engine from the FCA/Stellantis group, which produces 170 horsepower and 350 Newton meters of torque. Now this is the same mechanical setup which is there in the Tata Harrier and the Jeep Compass. Besides, the gearboxes are a little different. Now this one uses the 6-speed manual transmission, which, with all the fortune that MG has a very slick 3rd and 4th gear. Now, especially when I'm driving through these hilly roads of Shimla, the kind of ease I have in going through the corners without switching gears is pretty brilliant. And the turbo kicks in at as low as 1600 RPM, so you don't have to really spool it all the way up to 2000 to get the maximum punch. Now, the torque figures are available till 2500 RPM, which is pretty healthy. And the way that this torque band is available from 1600 RPM up till 3000 RPM is pretty brilliant. Now, as much as the engine and the gearbox makes it an easy affair for you to drive it around on the highways, I cannot say the same thing about the handling of this car. Now, this car has a very narrow track on the front and the rear axle. Plus the wheel size is very small in proportion to the car's size and overall height. So the center of gravity is quite high up. And that means while you're taking corners, especially like I am, through these twisties of the Himalayan Expressway that connects Solan, Shimla and Chandigarh, I can't really throw this car around. And mind you, this is the highway which I recently drove on with the Volkswagen Virtus, the Mercedes-Benz GLC and the Volvo C40, and I was going absolutely bonkers driving those cars. Not in the case of the MG Hector, and especially not in the case of this Hector with the diesel engine, because it is front heavy. When you're braking, there is quite a lot of pitch that happens, and on the corners, because of the shorter track, there's quite a lot of roll that this car has to offer. Especially with those longer overhangs, this is not a dynamically acclaimed car, and you would not be wanting to drive this like an absolute hooligan. Unless you're brave enough and your testicles are made up of titanium. Which I do possess because I have a very brief experience driving race cars on the track, and that I wanted to really implement on this Himalayan Expressway because it is just such a beautiful road to drive on. But the MG Hector is something that you just won't want to throw around. It has way too much weight carrying around on those small wheels, and especially with this very heavy panoramic sunroof on top of my head, it becomes a very head-heavy car, making it quite a cumbersome experience to drive it hard around the corners. You're best off with the likes of the Jeep Compass and the Tata Harrier in this case because of how wide their track is and how beautifully they are engineered in terms of their dynamic ability. The MG Hector is best driven in a more comfortable manner and not like the way I'm driving right now. I'm just being silly. This can end up really fatal for someone who's not an experienced driver, especially up here in the mountains, because this just understeers so much. Now, speaking of titanium, you also need to be very brave to drive this car fast through the rough surfaces. This might just lose out a bit in terms of its traction capabilities. Now, not to say that this car is bad in terms of its overall traction. The ESP works marginally well when you have to go through the rough surfaces at a nominal pace, but if you want to go really fast or rally level fast, which I have done with the Tata Harrier, you might not want to do that. But all that said and done, let's talk about the more important things that matter the Indian consumer, that are the looks. To all the people who've been following me vigorously know that I'm not a huge fan of the MG Hector's design. To start off with, MG calls this an SUV, but in theory, this is designed like an MUV. To start off with, you have these large overhangs in the front, which do creep in when you're going down a steep slope. The bumpers do hit if the slope is quite sharp, which doesn't happen in the Tata Harrier or the Jeep Compass because of the design. Now, because of the tall boy stance of this car, the smaller wheel arches look a little too tiny. And because of the smaller size of the wheels, while you're driving the car really hard through the corners, it makes up for a very unbalanced ride. Also, the rear three quarters look like the Audi Q7 from the past, which should change really very soon. But otherwise, it's a handsome looking car. Here in the front cabin of the MG Hector, everything is very well packaged and high quality. To start off with, what is taking the center stage in this cabin is this portrait style touchscreen. Now this has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. The resolution is also very crisp, and MG has worked upon this 360-degree camera with high resolution cameras, which makes your life really very easy. Now this gets the Map My India navigation built in. That means you are not always relying on your mobile phone or your mobile network for getting the navigation data. Things are pretty much inbuilt in this situation, which you don't get either in the Jeep Compass or the Tata Harrier. Besides that, you've got this wonderful leather wrapped steering wheel with perforated thumb grips. Although this steering is a tad too wide in terms of a diameter, but it works really well when you're doing long distance journeys. This manual gear lever in the center with a plethora of buttons on the side for your seat ventilation, ESP and warning lamps. You've got a wireless phone charger over here and two large cup holders which can accommodate 1 liter bottles. Now, what makes this cabin special is the quality of materials that MG has used. You've got this soft touch leatherish material on top of the dashboard. You've got very squishy material over here, and then there are these seats. These are perhaps one of the best seats in the industry, and I totally love them, especially after doing 1200 kilometers of my road trips over the past 5 days. I think these are one of my favorite seats in the industry, and I'm saying it out loud after giving quite a lot of hate to MG Hector in the recent past. Now, besides that, the cabin has a lot of ergonomic cues. For example, this binnacle over here for your window controls has very high quality buttons to start off with, and the position of this entire setup is very good. You have your armrest at the perfect spot, and you can rest your arm over here and be accessed to your window controls, which makes life really easy. You've got a massive glove box over here which can accommodate your paperwork and a toolbox. Small cubby space over here, and you've got electric seats as well with quite a lot of adjustability. Talking of adjustability, this gets a reach and rake steering. So even if you're 5'1" or 6'7", you'll be very comfortable in this cabin. Talking about 6'7" people, you also have this massive panoramic sunroof which would not let you feel claustrophobic over those long distance journeys. So we're done with the front cabin. Let's get at the back and tell you more about what is special over there. The back seat situation of the MG Hector is at an absolute pinnacle of what you can get in this price point. To start off with, I'm 5 feet 8 inches tall, and this driving seat is adjusted as per my driving preference. And I have loads of knee room. I have huge amount of headroom, and these seats are so very comfortable that even when this car is standing still, I can just go off to sleep. The recline angle is absolutely top notch. There is good amount of under thigh support. The cushioning is perfect. The back support is amazing, and you've got this massive central armrest which has very cushy elbow rest over here. Everything in this cabin is so well engineered. The massive windows that creep in good amount of sunlight so you feel more airy. You've got these massive AC vents over here which don't have temperature or fan controls, but they're there nonetheless. There is this massive cubby space over here for your mobile phones, old A-type USB ports, and that's about it. You also get manual adjustment for your recline angle, but I'll always keep it at the rearmost so I could just relax and be chauffeured around like the Prince of Shimla. Driver, take me home. Oh, I forgot. I'm the one who's driving this car. Damn! So we are driving down from the Hatu Peak, which lies at 11,100 feet above sea level. And the roads are not particularly smooth. There is quite a lot of undulation, massive potholes, and moreover, the road is really narrow. When it snows, the surface becomes extremely rough, making it quite a cumbersome experience for any car to survive over here. The suspension of your car is an utmost element that would provide you comfort when you're driving through such terrain. Now, in the Hector, especially in the first generation, the suspension was really truly something that you would not want to write home about. But in this new 2023 Avatar, the suspension system has really been upgraded. There is a good amount of compression, a very healthy amount of rebound that's also there, which helps in keeping a good decorum on such massive portholes. Also, the fact that there is quite a lot of body roll in this car. The suspension has to be really pliant, and MG has worked and engineered this product in such a way that this is more inclined towards the comfort quotient while you're driving up or down the hill, especially through these rough terrains. So you would not be complaining driving to Spiti or Ladakh or to places like Khatu Peak during this time of the year. So I'm out on the highway now, and this is one of the places for which you would buy the Hector Diesel, because this car on the open road is just phenomenal. Now, as much as I have criticized this car in the past, the way it rides on the highway is just fantastic. The highway just soaks up most of the bumps, and the way it delivers the shove at pretty low RPMs is very nice. From Shimla, I have driven for about 210 kilometers without taking a break, and that is quite a feat because I otherwise take a break every 100 kilometers in any other car that I would drive. The seats are amazing. They have quite a lot of cushioning, especially for the side bolsters and your lower back, which makes you feel less lethargic while you're doing long distance journeys. Secondly, at lower RPMs, the way this just cuts out the wind noise from outside, although the NVH overall from the engine bay to the cabin is quite unrefined, but otherwise at triple digit speeds, it just feels so natural and so much at home. This is a great long distance cruiser. And besides being comfortable on the highway, it is also very efficient. We're currently doing 24.3 kilometers to the liter. In the last 212 kilometers that we have covered, that included a bit of downhill drive as well, but we got stuck in Chandigarh, then in Ambala, in traffic. We went through some diversions that were there on the Himalayan Expressway, so it was not all rainbows and butterflies. There were quite a lot of compromises that we did on the way down from Shimla. And even with that, and with a boot full of my stuff, 24 kilometers to the liter is honestly fantastic. This is something that I would write home about because I'm a huge fuel economy maniac, and this just massages my ego so well. The Hector, for anyone who's wanting to get into this segment, is a very relaxed car to drive. You have to drive it in a more relaxed manner. You have to just ease out your driving style a little bit, be a little less aggressive. You have to stop being the rally driver that you really are and act more like a family man who has kids, a wife and parents sitting in the back seat. And this car just seems worth it all after driving it in that way. But to be honest, if you're brave enough, you can hoon around in this car as well. It's going to be a little too cumbersome, little too frightening to drive over corners, but it's quite a lot of fun otherwise. I mean, What's fun if you don't get scared from your own car? Anyway, now we're heading back to Delhi. Let's see how my overall fuel economy figures come out to be, and let's talk you through more of the things that I actually did not like about this car. So here it goes.
As much as the Indians love chrome, but the chrome in the front grille on the Hector is just too much. And the headlamps have a very good throw and spread, but the cornering lamps are just pointless. The 360-degree camera has a very low resolution, especially for 2023. The Jeep Compass has it better, and you'll be able to spot more in that car through the cameras. Type A charging ports in 2023? No please. And MG's long-term reliability is questionable. A lot of consumers have been complaining. But the Internet Inside badge is now gone. Finally, no more people asking you for their Wi-Fi password.
So for whom is the MG Hector Diesel really for? If you're a person who drives a lot every month, and when I say a lot, it is anywhere between 3,000 and 5,000 kilometers at an average, this is the car for you. This is one of the most comfortable MUVs in the market today. The suspension setup is so robust, it can take on anything that you throw at it. India has quite a lot of rough roads everywhere, be it in the urban jungle or rural areas like this, or the mountain ranges. Of course, we have tough and rough terrain everywhere, and the MG Hector, especially in this diesel avatar, makes quite a lot of sense. This is pretty frugal as well. In the entire trip of 1200 kilometers, I've been getting a fuel economy of an overall 17.1 kilometers to the liter. That includes going up the incline, going through the rough trails, driving through the highways and whatnot. And on the highway, it can easily go up to 25 kilometers to the liter. That, for a car of this size, is pretty impressive. And MG has tech and quality packed into this. So, for all you travel junkies, the Hector Diesel is quite a compelling choice. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you liked what we talked about over here with the MG Hector. Please do like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Instagram. And don't forget to wear your seatbelts, because it's a very important thing. If you have your life, you'll be able to enjoy these cars even better.